Political Bullshit.
And this is Tim with the Fifth Ward. Hey, Shawn, we got a lot going on here. And I'd say we jump right into it. Let's get started.
You got it, Timmy. Let's get started. So, hey, listen, there's some good things going on in the city, and I'm really excited about it because the two things that I want to talk to you about, um, they capture some of the best of Cohoes, I guess is what I want to say.
Yeah.
And that was I noticed that they were going to make two dedications, one at Sunset Park and one at Greenbrier Park.
Right. Yes.
Um, and they're going to name both of those parks after two of the most important people in sports and in mentoring here in the city of Cohoes.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah, I would.
Um,
Yes.
and that is John Domel, who personally, from a personal standpoint, I truly love the man, and I believe that a lot of the great qualities that I acquired over the years, and hundreds of other kids, came from
Yeah.
John Domel
Yeah.
when he was
Yep.
the assistant, and then went on to be the director of the community center.
Yep.
Um, when I was a young kid, I had a single mom. I didn't see my dad as much as I wish I did when I was younger, but I lived in the projects, but I was mentored because my mom would bring me to the community center, and John Domel and Joe Lutz and Robert Gully, those people weren't just employed at the community center. They were true advocates for kids. They really, really cared about the direction of your life. And when you became part of the community center, you became part of the family.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I'm 56 years old, and I still think of John Domel all the time. I think about how he's touched my life and so many other kids. So I'm really excited to see that he's getting one of the parks, and I think he's getting.
I think it's a
Uh,
basketball court's named after him.
yeah, I think they're going to name the courts after him,
Yeah.
and his will be where at Sunset.
Sunset. And
And
then,
how
of course,
ironic! That's
yeah.
where I grew up,
And that
right?
park was just rebuilt with
Yeah.
grants that we got. So they rebuilt that and did a lot of upgrades to the park.
Yeah, that's
With
great. So kudos to the city for
for,
investing in some of those pocket parks. And then Joe Loudis. I mean, who didn't know Joe Loudis?
yeah,
I still can picture him every day biting the towel in the basketball when he
yeah,
was the
great man.
he was the coach in Cohoes, and then he went on to coach in Mechanicsville, and one of his
Yeah,
boys, I believe, followed suit in coaching in
yeah,
Mechanicsville.
I
Just
believe Eric. Yeah,
yeah, just a beautiful family. I'll tell you, they are just when you think of the Loudest family, it's top notch. The Domels top notch, and
yeah,
so kudos to the mayor and whoever else was involved in coming up with these dedications, because man, they are warranted. They are a beautiful tribute to some beautiful families, two beautiful men who cared so much about kids. It is the epitome of Cohoes, man, a small city, right? That
yeah,
had people that touched your life, and they did it because they cared. Believe me, these were very smart people. John Domel could have probably worked anywhere in the world. He was a highly intelligent man with a great college education, and he chose to stay at the community center. You know why? Because he found the great wealth in helping kids.
a
And
very warm person when it comes to just human beings in in kind. You know, he was good
yeah,
to the kids. He was good to the adult. He was just a good overall man. You know,
yeah, I can
and
remember when
he,
the community center was on its last leg, and
yeah,
his whole life then revolved around just trying to keep the place open. I think he lost his passion because he
yeah,
wanted to be with kids and help kids and mentor
yeah,
kids, and his whole life that's what he did. And in the end, sadly, the community center ended up closing up. But John DeMello, if you're out there and you can hear this podcast, I love you, man. I love
yeah,
you, Mr. Loudest. You guys are two incredible men who've done so much for so many, and this is well deserved. So
yeah.
congratulations, and
Right.
hopefully I can attend those because I think they touch my heart, and I'd love to be able to see it.
Yep. Well, it's a big congrats to those guys. Well deserved. And our podcast is not always about the bad. Okay.
Well,
This is some good things. Now, what I would like to say, though, down the road is that the restoration of the Wall of Fame for our musicians.
well,
Okay.
I mentioned that last podcast, or the podcast
Yeah.
before that. Listen, I'm not a fan of the mayor, as you know, and it has nothing to do with any election or anything else.
Yep.
I rooted for everybody to take over the city and just be the caretaker and just try to keep it going because it was
Yep.
really booming. Um, but I've reached out and said, hey, what about the Wall of Fame? These are people that had contributed to our community, that had great talent, brought talent to our city, brought happiness to our lives, listening to
Right.
their music,
Right. A
and then we
music
create.
culture.
Yeah, these are
Yeah.
these are these are icons in our community, and I think it was my uncle George Primo who started the Wall of Fame, and I just continued to add on to it. Um, but how come this guy hasn't put the plaques back up? Why doesn't he even care enough that these people also touched our lives? Is it because there's no political kudos because it wasn't his idea? Because one of the things that I found out about this guy, Keeler, is that if it's anybody else's idea, he wants to squash it and he wants to create his own utopia. And unfortunately, he's terrible at it. And so while he's doing this beautiful thing in the park, and it's for such great families, and I congratulate him and those families, he should also get those plaques back up because those people matter as well.
That's right. The Wall of Fame was important not only to the band members and the families all involved. I mean, music is a culture,
Yeah.
and we all enjoy rock the block, and we have a history there. And that Canal Square was built for this. And ideally, those plaques should be somewhere. Posted somewhere in Canal Square. That's my
I will tell you
that.
that I sat down at the table and was very instrumental in designing the park. That park was something that was very dear to me. I was in the position that I was, so I knew I could help, you know, put that park on the forefront of every park, especially since it was in our downtown, and we were trying to, bring back the downtown and turn it into the arts and
Yep.
entertainment district. Um, and every single meeting I had with every architect, those plaques were going back up on the back wall so that everybody who got up on that stage could turn around and see some of the best musicians that our city and the capital region had to offer. And then
Yeah.
when nobody was playing and people went to the park, they could go up onto the stage and look at these plaques and see some of the local famous people who fill our life with joy through music. And yeah, one of them was my brother, Johnny Moore's been playing. He's an icon. Uncle
Yep.
George, he's an icon. There's so many of them. Ernie Williams. Yet these things are sitting somewhere in either Amanda Primo's office, because that used to be the director of operations office, and they had the plaques in that room, or they're sitting in Keeler's office, or maybe he threw them down in the basement. But you know what? If you're watching a show, send an email to the city and demand that they put those plaques back up. Rock the Block was something that I started to bring a community together. It is probably one of the best things that I started, and it's one of the few things they're continuing that I started. But please understand those plaques were as big to that park as the stage.
And right
So
now, Sean, that Rock the Block is bringing thousands of people into Cohoes.
Timmy, listen, when we built it,
So,
it was part of the economic development that would
yeah,
feed our businesses so we
yeah,
could get businesses in the city, because
yeah,
Cohoes can't survive with just 16, 18,000 people going to the downtown. First of all, you don't
yeah,
have enough money. Secondly, you don't go out every single night. So you had to bring people. We were
yeah.
bringing people, 30,000 people a year. So Rock
And,
the Block is still exciting, but
and,
please put those plaques back up. Have some class.
right, and and I do want to touch on this. So, I know that yeah, your brother Johnny, he wanted to do a toys for Tots Drive, and he had a sponsor and everybody else, and all he needed was a simple permit to offer a free concert to
Yeah.
everybody to come to Coles, watch him play, enjoy and donate a toy that being given out to the kids, needy
Yeah.
kids, and we could not even get the city support behind that. And
Well,
in this current administration, it's just a damn shame that this administration has reduced itself to this level.
Well, the guy's a hater. The guy's a
Yeah,
hater, and he comes from the military style job where everybody kissed his ass, and you're not going to get DPW workers and firefighters and cops and the
yeah,
public to kiss your ass. You're now a public servant, my friend, and you're supposed to serve the public. And
yeah,
so you serve the public by trying to provide them with everything that they need, and having toys for kids that don't have a Christmas without them. Is something the city needs. I know. I played Santa Claus for 26 years. I delivered those presents on the back of that fire truck. I was ho ho, right? I mean,
yeah, yeah,
everybody knows it. It was one of the greatest things and greatest joys that I had in my life. It was a
yeah.
God gift to me. It was part of everything that I stood for, making sure
Nothing
people,
better.
yeah, making sure people who grew up like me without a lot had at least something, right? And
Yeah,
and and so this bullshit that he pulls, where all of a sudden you need to not only have a permit. I know what it says because we changed the rules
yeah.
when I was the mayor because we wanted people to use the park.
It's
So
just a simple permit.
all you had to do is have a permit. All of a sudden, he says, well, not only do you have to have a permit, you got to pay for the police, the ambulance, the DPW. It was everything that you needed to do to stop somebody from doing something good to the community, because who the hell can have a benefit and then afford to pay $10,000 to have a concert in the stupid park just because you're a moron and you don't want them to do it? And he didn't
Yeah,
just do it to Johnny. He did it to one of the businesses in the city, Happy Days.
sweet
She
happy
tried to
days.
have the
Yeah,
same exact thing. She's a wonderful woman. Her and her husband are always giving, giving, giving,
yeah, they
and
are.
and you know he did the same thing to her,
He couldn't.
and
Yeah, he couldn't
and he
budge him.
put.
Right. And look, I want to tell you about this permitting process too, real quick. Okay, when it's a city-sponsored event, like Rock the Block is, there's not supposed to be any fees for permits for vendors or whatever. And it's right in the charter. And I don't know if you've seen it, but I have seen it. And I've quoted it. And I said, and I've asked these vendors who are selling either beer or hot dogs and all that. I said, have you guys paid a fee for this? And they said, yeah, we did, like 120. I said, well, under the charter, that fee is waived if the city is sponsoring the event.
What they had to do, though, Tim, is and I'll just let you know because I was the
Yeah,
one who started it, right?
yeah,
You can't serve food without having a health permit.
yeah.
Right, so when you're serving
So
food, you got to pay for permit, and the city sponsored the concerts.
So long as you had a brick and mortar building in the city, okay, in the city,
You,
you didn't need to pay that fee, but you did get the permit. You still had to file for the permit, and you
yeah,
had
we
to have your
still
right.
we did charge people for the permit because otherwise, here was the problem that we had. We only had room for like 6 people, right? It
Yeah,
wasn't big enough. And
right.
so we didn't want people fighting over, everybody thought they could just walk in for free, right? So you had to have
Right.
a permit. So we made them have a permit. First come, first serve. Nobody got no, hey, I got it before you. We had
Yeah.
people coming from outside the city with popcorn and everything else. But here's something that bothers me. So Johnny Morris has to pay. They want him to pay for fire. You're talking
They
10
want
grand,
right.
right?
They wanted EMS
Right.
coverage. They wanted police coverage, DPW clean. They wanted all these things, and they didn't want to do a damn thing for a toy drive.
And was it is it Sweet Happy Days
Yes, sweet happy days with Brenda Vanier.
and Brenda, right? Brenda
Yeah,
Vanier and
yeah,
her husband,
yeah,
great
yeah,
people. They
yeah,
did the same thing to her, but they have this thing called Eat in the Streets,
yeah.
and I guarantee you, Eat in the Streets didn't have to pay for those things.
No.
And let me make something perfectly clear. The LDC is not Cohoes. They have to follow the same rules as any other business or any other entity that's going to perform or do something in our city. So
Yes.
technically, if the city put on Eat in the Streets, and everybody had to put out a table there and they had all these vendors, they would have had to get a permit. And if it was put on by the LDC, and the LDC was covering all the costs, they should have had to pay for cops, fire, police, and the same thing as Johnny Morris and Brenda Vanier.
Yeah.
They don't get just because you're the LDC, you don't get a pass. They're not the city of Cohoes. They're their own 501c3, their own sub governmental entity, but they have to pay.
Right, and the trouble I see with it, Sean, is that if it's a regular guy on the street that wants to come to the city and say, "Look, I'd like to do a concert or a thing like this as a volunteer for a good cause," the city thumbs its down on it. Okay, oh no, look at they've got to have a can-do attitude down there, and they don't. The attitude is, we don't want to do it. We don't want to be bothered.
Well, they're selective. See,
Yeah,
Bill Keeler, without getting kudos, doesn't want to do it. Bill
yeah,
Keeler, who can take kudos, wants to do it. He can't take credit for Rock the Block. He didn't do it. He can't take credit for 787, so he don't send the police down there. He
yeah,
can't take credit for the music hall. So what's he do? He has to change it all up so that it could be his, and that's stupid to me.
he's
What's smart to me is that if it's working, you're now the boss. You're now the mayor. You're going to get the credit for booking the concerts and keeping it alive.
yeah,
But he doesn't see it that way. He sees it like it's got to be his or nothing.
yeah,
And that takes me to another topic, Timmy. That
yep.
takes me to the Memorial Day parade.
Yeah,
That takes me
unbelievable
to the
what's
honoring
going
of our
on with that.
veterans. Yeah,
Yeah,
talk
it's just
about it.
yeah. Basically, I saw the flyer, and instead of having a parade march down either Columbia Street or an alternate route, if the Columbia Street is dug up or whatever, we've had alternate routes before. Instead of having a parade, all we want to do is have a gathering at Vets Park and lay a wreath. A little memorial. They call it a memorial. But what's he going to do? I mean, he's done it before. Just show up and say, hey, we're proud of our veterans and our city heroes and all that stuff. Lay down a wreath and be done with it. The people don't get in this city under him a Memorial Day parade. But ask Black Lives Matter to come in and march through the city, and it's bingo. We don't need a permit. Let's go through the city, and you name the street, and we'll even do it with a police escort.
Well,
Jump in on this.
and again, there goes the double standard of this guy, right? Johnny
Yeah,
Morse, permit. Brenda Vanier, permit. Black Lives Matter, no permit, no EMS, no police, no cost. Just march down our streets and I'll walk with you like Gorilla Monsoon, the grape ape, right in the front,
yeah,
marching down,
yeah,
right? But he can't do that for the parade. Now, I don't know if it's true. I really don't. But rumor has it from some good people that you think would know, is that he don't want to march in a parade because he's at odds with the firemen. Now, if that's true, what a baby.
yeah,
Now, I don't
yeah,
know if it's true, and I'm not going to say on this show that it's true because I don't, but I can tell you that people close to this whole process said this guy doesn't even want to march with the firemen, and that's a shame. And if that's the reason he did it, he ought to just resign, go back to being in the police department, sit in his car, do whatever the police do in the state police, sit on the highway, give people tickets, because you don't have the couth or the ability to be a people person and make sure that everybody else is being taken care of, because that's what the mayor does. He puts himself second to everybody else. His job is to advocate for everything else. His job is to make sure that people have what they need. Good times, bad times, it doesn't matter. He's got to give the people the best that he has to give them, and not having a parade isn't the best. Not honoring our vets isn't the best. And I wonder, Timmy, if he's even having this because he got embarrassed, because there was hundreds of people on Facebook bashing the guy about canceling the parade. Then all of a sudden you get this little blurb, doesn't even come out in any of the media or nothing. It's just some little flyer on
yeah,
Facebook saying that they're going to lay a wreath at the park.
yeah.
Shame on him.
That's all
Shame
we're
on
gonna
him.
do. Yeah.
Shame on him.
He
The
doesn't
veterans
know,
should be
right?
given the best of the best, and that means a parade. And if he doesn't understand that there's a lot of different streets in
Yeah,
Cohoes that connect, he didn't have a problem closing down almost every street in the city for like 2 weeks when he had construction on the hill, construction on the island. Then because a movie wants to come to Cohoes, we'll shut down the whole hill. People couldn't get to work. People couldn't get. He didn't care about that inconvenience. But
no,
all of a sudden, because Columbia Street is having some work done, and it looks beautiful. I'll give you guys credit for that. Um, you're not gonna have the parade here. I got an idea. Let me get a little smart here for a minute. I know I'm a stupid son of a bitch, but you could have went down to the KFC and marched all the way down to the Canal Square. Or you could have started at the top of Craner Park, which has a beautiful memorial up there, named after a hero, an American hero.
Yep.
And you could have marched from Craner Park down to City Hall or over to the Canal Square. There's a lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
You just don't have an opportunity when you don't have a brain and you don't think. I know he's not that stupid. So it had to be on purpose. It had to be on purpose.
He doesn't know how to wear two hats, Sean, okay? He doesn't know how to set aside his differences for a good cause. Just doesn't know how to do it. Okay, so
Yeah.
look at my gut tells me. Look at he didn't want to be involved in a parade because you'd have the firefighters there, fire department there with their trucks in the background. You'd have a
And their
police escort.
ambulance.
Yeah, and would the ambulance have a vehicle in there? Who knows? You would have to get a marching band or get somebody to come in. I don't care. You could get the middle school students for all I care. Just do it and get it done and do it for the. You got to do it for the veterans. No pride at all in the community when you do stuff like that, especially the
Look,
veterans.
yeah, yeah. Hey, listen. Speaking of veterans, hey, we're still raising money for the roof. So many people have helped us. We had people just going down there dropping off checks, people mailing checks. We could still use a few more $1,000. So if you're listening to the show, Cohoes American Legion needs your help. That is for the veterans. That whole organization is nothing but veterans, and help them veterans out. They deserve every single thing that we can do. Imagine if we didn't have those veterans. Everybody's life today, um, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, if you like this country or if you're battling whether you like this country or you're fighting over politics in this country, somebody's blood was shed to give you a great life and
Yeah,
to give you this life. And helping those people is something that it should be an automatic. And so many of you have. So I'm not saying that you haven't. Cohoes always steps up and does great things. So please keep doing it for us. Help us get that American Legion. We need about $5,000 more, and they'll have the money for the roof. And we're going to have the commander on our next show just to talk a little bit about the American Legion. But they could
yeah,
use your help. And again, man, many men and women laid their blood on the ground for us. And a little roof seems
yeah.
kind of trivial, but it's that important to them.
Well, I have a paver. I have a paver at Vets Park. It's got my name on it. The two squadrons I worked off. A lot of people don't know what I did in the service, but I did work flight deck on aircraft on the USS Ranger and also the nuke-powered USS Nimitz. Okay, and we've been all over the world, and I'm going to tell you, people don't know what those carriers are capable of until you're actually working on a flight, an extremely dangerous environment. But I'm just a little kid from Cohoes, and here I am starting up and testing supersonic reconnaissance aircraft for the Navy at 24 years old.
Yeah, it's
You know,
amazing. And these young kids
we
that
have a
enter,
yeah,
yeah, it's a
and we
great
have,
thing. And
yeah.
just
So
help. It's that simple.
you
Help.
got you
Throw
got
us
a
some
lot of
money.
right. You got a lot of vets on out there, and they all play an important role. And I'm all for anything that we could do. Hopefully, if they can set up a table or somewhere at Rock the Block, and they can get donations there. That's what
Yeah, I
I'd
heard
like
they
to
were
see.
getting two of the Rock the Block shows to set up some tables. So
That'd be great.
yeah, so we appreciate that in the city letting them do that. We
They
appreciate
even
that.
did
But
a 50-50, if I remember right. When
yeah,
they
they'll have the table. They'll do the 50-50. They'll raise some money.
good,
Cohoes again is a great city, and people are always willing to give, and that's why we call it home, Timmy. It'd be easy
yeah,
to pack up and move
yeah,
if it was just about all the problems we talk about or the bad things. But there's a lot of good things, and it's the people, and they're
yeah.
always stepping up in times of need. So hey, simple, just give some money to the American Legion. They can use it, and they will appreciate it, and it goes to a great
And,
cause.
and we still have time, folks. So on out there, I would call your council members. I would contact your mayor and say, we need this parade. There's no excuse for it, okay, to not have a parade if it's something that's doable.
Yeah, it's sad, but so I got a little conspiracy theory, Tim. Maybe I got an idea here. Maybe it's something, or maybe it's
Oh,
just my
do
crazy
share.
mind. But let me, yeah, let me share with you. It would be a terrible parade, and the city'd be in a bad way if ambulance only had one ambulance to put in the parade because the other one's missing, and they're paying 88,000. Because as you heard the other day, we had we had one
Ambulance
ambulance
on
on
duty.
duty, and then we were paying for the 88,000 for two. But guess what? We had one.
Yeah. And,
I mean,
8
maybe it
firefighters
just
are
they didn't want to have a
confirming
parade
that.
that's supposed to have two, and they only had one. Then the whole public would know that.
Right. Look, as far as I'm concerned, it's a breach of contract. Okay. I let Adam Biggs know that. He's the public safety committeeman on the council. Look at Adam, it's time that you start doing your job. If you're going to carry this title, okay, you need to do your job on this thing. And I want to jump right into what happened with Digital Express, which is a bad company. It's a good company. But Sean, the people in this city need to know what this Keogh administration did when they sent out Chief Fodd's letter. Okay, that was a targeted letter, and I spoke to one of the a person in the office. I said, "Hey, how did you get the mailing list in order to mail out these letters?" And apparently, and you would know this too, because they use a private companies that have all this information, and they had it broken down even by wards, who lives in what wards. So in Cohoes, we have 6 wards, and that woman told me that this mailing only went out to the 4th, 5th, and 6th ward residents of the city of Cohoes, all about public safety, and more so the people in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd ward. You were all snubbed by this
Yeah,
administration.
yeah. If you remember, Timmy, we kind of had a conversation in one of the podcasts about that
Yeah,
because I said to you that this was done to feed information to protect Keeler, badmouth the firemen, and go to the biggest voting population in the city and skipping those people who have a smaller voting population, right?
right.
And it
First,
was the
second,
ones
and
who are the
third.
most have the most homeowners versus renters, has the most voters versus non-voters, has the most Democrats versus non-Democrats, and so he went to the biggest wards that
And
have the
we
biggest voting population. And this wasn't about public safety.
and they have the least need.
This was about saving his ass because he was getting the shit beat out of him by the public, and rightfully so. And people are smart, so they tried to create this letter, right? Bash the
Yeah,
firemen, give them a bunch of phony information, a bunch of lies, and do
right.
so to protect his political career.
Yeah, and
That's
he
what
did
it
it with
was. And if you can't see through that, people, then you don't care or you're just not paying attention.
so
But
right, right. So if you're in the 1st ward, 2nd ward, or 3rd ward, you were excluded.
you're excluded
Okay,
because you don't
you
matter because not
and
enough of you vote.
right, and in those areas are more inclined to need ambulance services. I
They're the
believe.
poorest people. They're the people that are renters,
Yeah,
people that don't have the means as the other wards do. They have
yeah,
a different community of interest. They have a whole bunch of reasons
yeah.
why they're different, right?
But they're all
And I
cohosers.
told you before, this guy, they could say he's not a politician. He is a leech of a politician. He sucks the politician dry compared to some of the other ones. He really does because
Yeah,
he's doing things that I've seen 1,000 times. I
yeah,
told you that when he was going to that company, which is owned by Randy Knifka's uncle, which happens to be Keeler's really good buddy.
yeah.
I'll stand corrected if I'm wrong, but I believe it's Randy Knifka's uncle, and I know Keeler's his friend. So why wouldn't they just, if they're only going to do half the city, why didn't they just print it out in the city hall? We got
Where's the
high.
accountability? Right, right.
Well, because you know why? Because then you get caught because somebody says, geez, he only printed out the ones. And then there's always somebody in City Hall that can't stand the government and they want to throw the mayor under the bus. So this was done. You send it to your buddy's printing press. They
Yeah,
have all of the technology. They can break it down the wards. They can tell you who votes, who doesn't vote. They got it all. And so they choose to go through this process, send it to that company, and pick out the people who own
that
their own homes mostly, and
Yep.
are the highest vote people that vote,
Yep.
and they're Democrats. So shame on this guy. This was a political stunt. Again, city taxpayer money
Two
used for
thousand
a
dollars.
political stunt to protect a political candidate during a reelection with
Yep.
your money, just like the Christmas cards. I
Yep.
will tell you that if that was me, they'd be kicking my door down with machine guns, dragging me out and cuffing me by my ankles,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
This
Yep.
guy, they don't do nothing. He can
And
have DPW work on his house. He can use your money to send out Christmas cards. He can use your money to send out political letters to just half the city. He disrespected the safety, the public safety of half of our community. That means, listen closely, people, you don't matter. So when it's time to vote, you should say, screw you. We weren't good enough to get a letter. You're not good enough to get our vote because this was about your safety. You
yep.
guys rely on this, the fire department and the ambulance probably more than the other three wards.
Yeah. Now look at. I want to touch on the elections. Okay, upcoming now. Tom Dean had to fight to get on the ballot because his paperwork wasn't right. He ends up going to court. The court rules in his favor, and he gets on the ballot. Now in the fifth ward, you see signs popping up all over the place. And my message is this. And I told Adam Biggs this when he was running for office. I said, Adam, there's a new way of communicating coming to the city of Cohoes. That being, I had plans in the future of getting this podcast system up and running. That's why when I talked to you months and months ago, we put it all together and we're up and running, okay? I said, we're going to start holding you accountable because right now, you can't get a copy of the minutes of council meetings. There's no recordings of anything. This is a new world these guys are going to be working in. And from now on, they're going to be held accountable online and people are going to know what's going on. So they need to start getting the information that people are asking for from the constituent. And things aren't getting done, Sean, they're going to be broadcast by me. Okay?
Yeah, well,
And I
rightfully
imagine,
so.
and just, we're in information highway here. Okay?
Yeah.
So
And they ought to
look
be
at,
nervous because we got thousands of people following us.
yeah,
I have thousands following Truth Lies Political Bullshit. You have your own
yeah,
fifth ward podcast,
yep,
and then we have this. And
yeah,
people are paying attention because it gives
yeah,
them an opportunity to find out things that they would not otherwise know.
yeah, and
And
we,
most of the stuff is whistleblowers and
yeah,
people calling us. I don't
yeah,
sit home at night trying to figure out what to talk about. I get enough emails about stuff. You get emails. We
yeah,
we
all the
kind of
time.
meet, talk about it, do our research, find out what's true and what's not. I'm still waiting. Listen, I sent in a FOIA request because I want to be able to prove that the street lights are costing us $200,000 more than they were before his crazy idea to change all the light bulbs,
Yeah.
right? uh, I send it to the controller. He tells me I have to send it to Lori Yondo to foil it. I send it to Lori Yondo. She sends me back a thing saying she sent it to him. He's got 20 days. They want 25 cents a page, or I can go down to City Hall and look at it, or whatever. It's just every single thing you need from a community. They try to stifle you. They try to block you.
Well, I'll tell you how
We
it
used to.
works. Right, and I'll tell you just exactly how it works, Sean. When you send a FOIL to Lori Yondo, city clerk, okay, she's the official records officer. By law, she has to have an answer from whoever she forwards it to, whether they're going to grant or deny your request. They
Yeah, it
got
goes to Brian Kremer.
5 days. Okay, 5 days. All right. So within 5 days, they're going to tell you whether they're going to deny it or grant it. Then once they decide they're going to grant it, then they, by law, have 20 days to give it to you. Now, Sean, what you're asking for is at arm's length. It's right there for them to pick it on out.
Sure it
Arm's
is.
length. So
And they
when
know
it's
it in
at
their head.
right, and when it's arm's length, transparency says you produce it. So when they're telling you you need to wait 20 days, okay, they're not being transparent when it's right there. You say wait a week. That's reasonable. But you shouldn't be getting a letter say, oh, you need 20 days. Try getting a FOIL answered from code enforcement. It's always 20 days. Always
Yeah,
want
well,
to get.
they got to figure out if they can hire. Look at, I remember when I was the mayor of the city, and Pat Jeffers was the corporation counsel, right?
Yeah,
I got rid of Brian Kremer for a short time because Brian to me was just a holdover from John McDonald. I liked Brian and I hated him at the same time. It was a crazy, crazy relationship. But he was going through behind my back, and Chris Briggs was kissing his ass and even buying him a bottle of whiskey and putting it on his desk in City Hall on Christmas time. That's kind of
yeah,
nice to bring into the City Hall. Um, um, but Pat Jeffers once said to me, "Look, if they're going to get the information anyway, I could tell you in 5 seconds if it's information they're entitled to, or if it's information they're not entitled to."
yeah.
And I
It's
was
just
getting
that
FOIL
simple.
requests every 15 minutes from the Times Union trying to screw me over for something else, right?
Right.
And I could have played games with them. You know what we did? We turned it over as quick as we could get it out, which was a couple days, even when I knew they were going to write a bad story about me because they're entitled to it.
Yeah,
And so making me wait 20 days to find out whether or not there's how much the bond is, how much
yeah.
savings or the cost of the lights are is ridiculous. Mike DeRocha knows it in the top of his on the top of his head, and if he wanted to give it, he could. I'm sure he's being told that he can't, and he's got to you got to follow this crazy process. But
Well,
hey, we'll get the information and we'll share it. But
yeah.
again, everything we
Tip.
do comes from somebody else. I'm not sitting home thinking
Yeah.
about what we're going to talk about on this podcast,
And
right?
I will say, yeah, and I will say, typically when I need info from Mike DeRocher, I have it within a reasonable period of time, maybe
Mike's a great guy, Mike.
3, 5 days tops. Because sometimes he's in the office working all alone.
Yeah, well, Mike's a great guy, but this is
So
Sean Morris asking for the information, so you
yeah,
can imagine that they're trying to,
well, yeah,
you know,
I'm sure it's got to get cleared through the mayor's
yeah,
office.
it's probably the
Okay,
CIA and everybody's got to clear the
right? Hey,
information because they know damn well we're going to use it on the show, right? Hey, look, we
yeah, that's
decided
right.
to start a show. This is our new business. This is what we do,
Yeah,
and we want to be the best at it. So we got to get the information and we got
yeah,
to provide people with facts. If I give them a bunch of bullshit, they're going to say, "Sean, you're the bullshitter, not
yeah.
these guys." So
So
we'll get.
yeah. Well, all these guys that are running for election now, okay, guys and gals, I should say, look at, there's a new reality in Cohoes, and this is this podcast, all right, and we're going to look at the agendas. We're going to look at, and there's changes are coming, whether or not City Hall likes it or not. Okay, and we're going to get whoever ends up winning the elections. Okay, this year, they're going to be told that they will be held accountable.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like it has in the past. And I tell you how many times I've sent emails to Adam Biggs, and it would go days and days and not answer. Then finally say, "Oh, geez, there's something wrong." There's nothing wrong with my email.
Well, I
There's
could tell you,
nothing
Timmy,
wrong with his email either.
you don't have to be a rocket scientist to recognize that there's Dion signs on
They're
Keeler's
for it
family's
everywhere.
property.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
So I guarantee you that Keeler is not making a push for Biggs.
yeah,
If he was, I imagine his family would be supporting Biggs because
yeah,
they'd be like, "Who you're the mayor? Who's working with you?" Now, I'm not saying they're all saying Tommy Dion's our greatest, council member and he's going to change the world and we love him
yeah,
and
yeah,
we're doing it because he may be. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the reason the signs are not up on the lawns for Adam is because Keeler's family is probably being told, "I could care less who you vote for."
yeah.
And
Well, look at
so,
yeah,
I will tell you that Keeler's not. My gut feeling is Keeler's
yeah.
not supporting Adam Biggs
Well,
because even,
yeah,
let me just finish. Even though Adam was a bobblehead for most of the time, there has been a few times where he's confronted the mayor, and how dare you do that?
yeah,
Okay, how dare you confront this guy?
yeah,
And so he's probably saying, you know what, Adam's slow at moving. He doesn't go fast enough for me. He's not, sometimes he's giving me a little bit of hard time. I just screw this guy, get rid of him. But there's no way in the world that the family of this guy would have signs for somebody that he was supporting versus somebody he wasn't. So that tells you that Adam's in trouble. Tommy's he's Ace's his wife. She had to put up with me in detention as my detention teacher. But
yeah,
Sue's a wonderful person. They're a great family. They have great kids. They're a great fabric of this community. The fabric of this community is the people, right? And up on the hill, they're the fabric, man. They have a great family. So I think Adam's in trouble, and I don't think the mayor's supporting him. So I think he's in double trouble. And but time will tell. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before.
Well, I
But
hope he straightens it up, but he's a little late to the party. I
well, they're all
mean,
late to the party. You
he,
got
I had to confront him in a council meeting about him being the public safety chair of the council, and suddenly, oh, he perks on up. Look at, I mean,
So
these bobbleheads down there. I kind of rate them as, bronze, silver, and gold. Okay,
yeah.
where you got when McCarthy is the gold bobblehead. Okay, everything Killer puts out. Okay, he's right there. Yes, 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 yes. Probably even platinum. All
Yeah,
right,
I find it
but
ironic because he was the biggest whiner, complainer, crybaby on the council when he only had 4 days to vote on a contract. And I used to say, geez, you can't read that thing in one day, have questions for me the next day, and then have 2 days to make a decision. I mean, I was a union rep. I'm working on 100
yeah,
contracts at the same
yeah,
time. We're not asking you to read it and then find your mistakes and rewrite. That's not your job. Your job is to determine whether you're going to approve the money that I need to do what I'm trying to do. So all of the logistics, you're not a lawyer. The bottom
yeah.
line is this is what we're trying to do. This is how much it is. If you have questions, call me. We'll talk about it. He would whine that he only had 4 days. He's giving these guys 1 hour.
Yeah, that's what happened. It
So
happened
you
on
see
the
how people change?
on the ambulance vote. That's
Yeah,
exactly what
yeah.
Bill Smith said. He got the new contract with only 1 hour to read it
Look,
before a vote.
McCarthy was one of those people who were always just jabbing me because he was a John McDonald bobblehead,
And
right?
Bill, right, right, and Bill Smith didn't get a Christmas card. Bill Smith, his whole ward in the first one, didn't get the letter from Chief Fod. Okay, this is what they're doing to the people in the first ward. You people out in the first ward, you need to wake up and realize what they are doing. They're trying to intentionally sabotage Bill Smith because he's reading the paperwork. He's trying to do the right thing, and they don't want it that way. They
Yeah,
just want him to be a bobblehead like we got down there in the sixth ward.
yeah.
Okay.
I think there's going to be some changes. I guess time will tell, Timmy. I don't, one thing I found out about politics, it's a funny business because people will have their lives destroyed by the people in
Yeah.
power, and then they'll keep voting for them. It's kind of like the
Yeah.
Jim Jones Kool-Aid, right? I mean, the
Yeah.
guy's
Yeah.
telling you to drink the Kool-Aid and you're going to die and go to heaven, and these people are drinking it down like it's a hot summer iced tea. It's a hot summer night, and you're drinking iced tea. They're drinking poison to kill themselves. I mean,
Yeah.
people get. I don't know. I don't know the word because I sit here and I think to myself, how the hell can you vote for somebody who's destroying your city? But then you go to the website and you'll see people on there. Oh, great job, great job. There's no ambulance. Sit 3 hours to get an ambulance. Well, great job, great job. I mean, there's a bunch of people, and I don't understand them. It's like
Yeah.
watching the country right now. I don't understand it. I
Well,
just can't wrap my arms around it.
Adam Biggs, if you're listening to this, you need to get a daily report of what ambulances are in Cohoes and when they are in, at what station they're at daily, so that we can make sure that that contract that I am paying $88,000 a month is being honored. And that goes for the rest of the people in Cohoes. It's that simple. You got firefighters there on duty so they've got eyes on these guys. Okay, it's an agreement, a contract. So if they're up at the hill, when are they, and how long are they there? Okay, it's a really simple thing to know.
Well, they
And what do
weren't
we
there
have?
on Sunday because
Right, and
the
so
hill was open, so there was firefighters up there.
yeah, and they know, these guys know, they're watching this thing closely. And
Yeah.
Adam, ambulance wasn't there. Our people are saying they weren't there, and you need to find out why. And if this is going to continue to happen, that contract needs to be nullified, null and void. Just that simple.
Yeah, I mean, this is a topic that's been going on for months. We get tired of talking about it, but
Yep.
we have no choice. And I thought we were done talking about it. And then what happens? You're paying
Yeah.
88,000, and they don't show up with the second ambulance. Again, my conspiracy theory. Hang on, let me think
Yeah.
about it. Oh yeah, maybe there's not enough ambulance to have in the parade, so they better cancel the parade, or everybody would know ambulance don't have enough ambulances. I don't
Yeah.
know. That's just something I threw out there. I don't know if that's real. Sometimes I get a little crazy on this podcast because my mind is spinning because I just, for the life of me, Can't believe people continue to vote for people that are destroying their city, destroying their lives. I hope you can write it down. What is today? Today is May
16.
16th. And you know why I know it's May 16th? Because today's my mother's birthday. God bless her in heaven. I miss her every day, love her. And but I always think on this day, what the hell would my mother be saying about what's going on? She's an old time middle of the road Democrat, right? She'd be nuts today watching what they do here in this city. And she'd be telling me, you know what, Shawn, go fight that good fight. And that's what we're doing today, Timmy. We're fighting the good fight. We're fighting the ambulance fight.
Yep.
We're
Yep.
trying to tell people the truth. But mark my words, write it down. May 16th, 2023, 2026, the city will be broke. 3 years from now, somebody will be saying, we got no money. We're broke because this guy is spending money like it's going out of style.
Yep.
And there's no way for a small city like us to recoup that money without going to the well over and over and over, or cutting the services to the point they're not even worth having. I mean, we don't even have people down 787 cutting the freaking weeds down. It's $15 million we fought to get that 787 redesigned so it would be safer and that it could open up for businesses. And they can't even cut the grass.
Sean, I just drove by there the other day. I think it was what's today? Tuesday. So yeah, it was yesterday, I believe. Three police cars on the Cohoes, but just before Ontario Street, in that window, that area, three police cars had three vehicles stopped, and they were back to back, back to back, back to back, and they had traffic backed up for a half a mile.
Yeah.
Okay, with three police. Why don't they, tell these guys, pull on over here, get out of the way so traffic can flow? But why three police vehicles?
Well, we talked about this, Timmy, right?
And we
We
did.
we talked about the policy that we put into place, and that was that at certain times of the day,
Yep.
people are trying to get home from work. 787's packed with people. The last thing we want to do is be pulling somebody over for speeding and inconveniencing 100 people that are backed up past Hot Dog Charlie's, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so we made it a point that if you were a somebody speeding, you would pull them over and make them pull off onto Ontario Street or pull off
Yep.
down by Kelman's or wherever. But we would never do it right on the highway during certain times. A, unsafe for the police officers to be standing out there where cars are going
Yep.
by. B, it's bad for the pedestrians who are trying to cross the street and get home on an unsafe road as it was at that time. And C, the people who want to just get home from work and don't want to be sitting in the car for 45 minutes because you're giving somebody a ticket. Yes, you have to give them tickets. Yes, you have to keep it safe, but you have to be smart. And you would think that the head of the state police would know enough that you're not pulling people over on the busy highway and backing it up for 10 miles to give out a speeding ticket when you could have just pulled them over on Ontario Street.
Yeah.
And if you had three cars, what we used to do is one car would be unmarked, and they would call in the speeding license plate to the car up ahead. So we waited till they got up and they were close to Ontario or close to another side street, and that's where they would get pulled over and told to get off the highway. Simple, right?
Yeah.
Simple
Yeah. Yeah.
stuff. But they
Hey.
can't do that. But hey, at least they're down there because they haven't been down
Yeah.
there for 3 years, Tim.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, and I also want to have a little fun there. Look at Gil Ethier is a friend. Okay, and but Sean, you know me. Okay, I'm going to hold these guys accountable, no matter whether they're my friends or not. Okay, it's but I've been picking on them pretty good, but
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
but it's justifiable, and I hear them calling around crying about what I'm doing. Okay, but look at here's the way I say it. He's the chair of the Cohoes Democratic Committee. He has a specific job, but Sean, I can't find out from a soul, anybody. They don't know who is all on this committee, how many members, what wards. It's an unknown thing that he's
Well, they could
running.
go to it. I
Yeah,
mean, here's the thing: they're elected, and if they're not elected and their spots open, Gil can appoint them through the county
yeah,
process. But they're all people from within your community, and it's an
yeah,
open process. And all you have to
right.
do is call Gil Ethier up and say, "When's your next meeting? I'd like to come and watch how it pans out." I mean, I don't
Yeah.
think it's a secret society.
No, but it's close.
And I
in my
think you can, I think
opinion.
there's 56 committee people, and if you called up Gil Ethier and said, "Can I have a list of all the committee people?" I'm sure he'd send it to you.
Yeah,
You're absolutely right. Listen, Gil, if you're watching, and I know you are, I think you're a closet watcher of our podcast
yeah,
here.
he is one. Yeah,
I
yeah.
think I love you. I think you're a great man.
I like, me
I've
too.
always been friends with you. I think you're a caring, giving man. I think you're a slickster when it comes to politics. There is nobody better, but you should take
Yeah,
that as a badge of honor.
yeah.
But nothing was ever said about him in a mean spirited way. I mean, I know he had a little issue about the limousine, but look,
Yeah,
when you have those positions, you need to laugh at yourself and have a little fun. But listen, I was part of the Democratic Party in Cohoes. I always liked Gil. I had my issues with Gil, just like you had your issues with
yeah,
me. And I had my battles with him when I was the chairman of the county legislature and
yeah,
all that stuff. But that's just part of being in that fraternity of politics, right?
yeah.
Uh,
When it's all said and done, you sit down, you have a beer, and you laugh it off.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I have issues with some of the stuff that Gil does, but and I've shared it with him.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you dislike somebody as a person.
No, right. Look at that's why I talk about wearing two hats. I mean, on one hand, okay, I like him for what he's doing on this, but when he's doing something else I don't like, I tell him. And then
Yeah, what's
look
wrong
at
with
yeah, yeah. So but he's a great character for creating memes.
that? Well, hey, listen, he needs to understand that we have a podcast.
Yeah,
And everybody is part of the podcast. And if you're a
he's front and
politician,
center
and
now.
yeah,
Yep,
right, not look at 95% of the show is going to be about politicians because it's a city show about the good, bad, and ugly of your city. And most of
yep,
it's it's always elected officials that are guiding the city in the directions that it
yep.
goes. So they're going to be the ones who are getting the finger pointed at them. So yeah, just get some some thick skin and stop
Yeah,
worrying about it because.
I love picking on him because I know I'm getting to him.
Yeah, I think it's funny because when you
Yeah,
pick on
no,
him, he calls me.
yeah, right. I pick on him, and I sure he calls me, and if I know he's calling me, and I don't answer the phone. He goes, "Timmy, are you avoiding me?" I said, "No, Gil, I'm ignoring you." So
well,
but
well,
anyway,
listen. I think at the
look,
end of the day, he knows that it's all just good
it's
fun. But
politics. Look, he's a good guy. He's done a lot for a lot of people. But look at we have a job to do here. And that means we got to
yeah,
call it on out. And I believe he prematurely put his thumb on the scale by endorsing Keeler when only a week before Kinner shows up in front of the his committee and then has a little talk with everyone. Next thing you know, he's endorsing Keeler. Didn't even give Kinner a shot. Okay,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
just thought that was not fair to Ed. That's all.
Well, it probably wasn't fair to Ed, but
But
to the victor goes the spoils, and that's the
yeah,
name of the game.
yeah,
And the Democrats ain't going to not support their mayor, and
yeah,
that's just the way it is. And then what happens is you become the mayor, you get into the power of the
yeah.
party, and you start saying to Gil, "Hey, I like to have this guy and that guy and that guy," and Gil will give you just enough to make sure that he runs the show still, but you feel like you're getting what you need. So the party constantly changes. And a lot of them have relationships with the people in power. So hey,
But he
that's the
gave,
nature of
yeah,
politics.
but
That's
he gave his Napier, and then goes around telling me how masterful that was.
yeah. Well,
Masterful. 3 years
yeah.
later, okay, I got $25,000 flushed down the toilet
I probably
on
shouldn't say
holiday
this because I
hush.
should be a better man, and I'm a church going man. I'm a
Yeah.
God fearing man. But I see, I just mind my own business now, and
Well,
I don't say a whole lot. But he's a terrible economic development. The guy is the biggest waste of city money. He knows absolutely nothing.
yeah,
He's spent and wasted more money, has nothing accomplished. They have brought no new business to the city. They brought no new money to the city. So eventually everything is tax and spend because there is no new money. And the more I look at that guy, maybe he should iron his clothes, tuck in his shirt, put on a tie, and show up for work and learn to be an economic development guy under the premise of somebody else because you don't know what you're doing. You're a waste of money. And every day that goes by that the city's not bringing in new revenue, the taxpayer's going to have to pay it. And what he probably should also do is go around and collect all the $25,000 in wood that he's got spread all over the city, just rotting out there in the rain from his shit shacks. But
yeah,
you fired me up, Timmy. You got me fired up on that.
yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, he's a slob, and he's destroying the city and wasting tax dollars. But now I got to go to church and pray again. So thanks,
Well,
Tim.
well, look at I avoid getting into personal name calling.
That's all
That's
right. You're
me.
not. I'm not. You called me a few names. I don't believe you.
Well, yeah, but you deserve them probably. You know. So anyway, but look at I've got some of the candidates running for office now contacting me. They're looking to do some podcasts here. They're also asking for information about their opponents and stuff like that because we keep track of all this stuff. So I think it's going to be an interesting election year, and the primaries are June 27. And did you get your yellow card in the mail today from
I
Albany
did.
County, letting you know? I'm
Yeah.
wondering how the people down there on Vance Dyke Island now being told that they're in the third ward field right now.
Yeah. It's just crazy.
Where
I
where do
don't.
they go to vote?
Listen, what's really important is that you just go out and vote, right?
Yeah,
Figure out where you have to go, make sure you know where your polling place is, and get out there and vote. I'd
yeah,
love to have candidates come on here. I don't want to be the guy on the podcast trying to interject any candidate. Um, I shared who I thought I'd like to see win. I'm not afraid to do that. But if they come on the show, I'm just going to ask them legitimate questions with the utmost respect because I respect the fact that somebody, regardless who they are putting their name out there.
yeah. They're
They're
running.
taking a shot. They're
Yeah,
going to get, some of them are going to get beat up and bad things are said. And they're going to try to hurt you. It takes a lot of courage to run for office. So you have my greatest respect. You come on the show, you'll be
yeah,
treated with utmost respect,
yeah,
whether I like you or dislike you, whether you've been a anti-Morris, pro-Morris. It doesn't
yeah,
matter. You'll get my respect because I always say this, and I'm not afraid to say it. I can't ask
yeah,
God for forgiveness for my sins if I can't forgive people for theirs, and therefore, even if you don't like me, come on the show and we'll give you a fair shake, man. That's what we're gonna do.
yeah. Well, what I typically tell them to
Unless you're
do
Steve
is
Napier.
right. Well, he'll probably try to make a run for mayor in 4 years.
Yeah, good
That's
luck.
what his plan
What's he
is.
gonna
Okay.
bring? His grandmother's pizza recipe
Yeah, well, a
and the
pizza
shit
cutter
shacks.
and the pizza cutter.
Yeah, good
His
luck.
plastic pizza cutter with his name on it. That's what I got. It's still in my drawer. I'm holding it for a rainy day.
Yeah.
Okay. But look at so what I always do is I've told the candidates I said, look at you can come on the podcast, prepare a list of topics you want to talk about. We'll discuss it briefly before we go on air, so that way it comes smoothly and just tell your story.
Yeah,
Let
I
people
won't.
know.
I wouldn't even ask them questions that
Yeah,
blindsided them.
no,
I'd say
no,
give it. Let us know what you're willing to discuss and share your platform with us. Maybe that's all I would do. Share your platform.
that's it.
I
Yeah,
probably wouldn't even criticize it, even if I thought it was bad, because I don't
yeah.
want to be. I'm not looking to be the kingmaker here, right?
They
I'm
got it
looking to.
right. Let them sell themselves to
Yeah,
the
let them sell
voters.
themselves. This is a great platform. So, hey, Timmy, listen, this is a great platform to sell yourself. So they're all invited to come on. It is time for me to run, and I know it's time for you to go. We got our hour in. We thank everybody for watching Cohoes, Good, Bad, and Ugly. We'll have this podcast up and running before you know it, and I think it's number 12, Tim, if I'm not
Yeah, I
mistaken, or is
think
it
so. Yeah,
13?
yeah, yeah.
Number
It's 12, I
12.
believe.
Number
Yeah,
12. So I'm
yeah.
excited that we've
Dirty
made 12
dozen.
of them so far. Nobody's assassinated us. We're still going strong and
Yep.
look forward to number 13. So, hey,
Okie
God
doke.
bless. Timmy, good to see you. Look
Yeah,
forward to number 13, and I'm sure we'll talk soon. And everybody else, God bless, be safe, and see you next week.
yeah. And take care, Cahoes. Enjoy the day.
Take care.